to work with you all again and opportunity to serve, and want to continue doing that. But I want to talk a little bit about this year, the General Assembly, where we ended up. The governor just signed the budget this past week. There was only a couple line item vetoes in the final budget. We balance our budget in Virginia, and so we're still in a very strong financial position. The governor did take a couple steps in this budget, not to cut any funding that we had asked for on a local level or that was one-time funding. He did make one temporary line item cut to any unfunded capital projects at higher education institutions. So that is not anything that's currently under construction. That was just kicking that out into the next year, the biennium, just to make sure that the revenue projections continue on the same track. So basically, nothing will be changing in the budget besides the things that were already there, which we're very excited about. This year I was able to secure $750,000 for Paulding Camp Community College for their Workforce Trades and Innovation Center. That will hopefully serve as a great springboard for workforce development and employment, specifically in, hopefully the maritime industry with our partners all around the region, including, Newport News and others in that industry. I think it's probably one of our highest callings if we want the next generation to be raised here, is we have to put our money where our mouth is and make sure we're supporting workforce trade innovation development at a high level and invest in that to make sure the next generation can grow up here. And so I was very honored to carry that budget and get that in the budget. Also, we were able to secure $500,000 for the Western Talbot Homeless Shelter that will be just past the Isle of Wight line in Suffolk, but will serve Western Talbot as a whole. That's, obviously a need that I think we have had for quite some time. I was honored to be able to carry that. In this year, there are several bills that I worked on, and not to leave it a sour note, but I'll share with you where I was this morning and tell you why sometimes things that we do, we hope that you take notice, and we hope that you take that internally, work on some of the things that we see, and then use that as a springboard for opportunity. So the other part of my district, I spent the morning in Emporia talking with Secretary of Agriculture and Mini and Commerce and Trade, because fortunately on Friday, Georgia Pacific decided that market conditions weren't great for plywood and home building. And so after a couple years of losses, they shut down operations in Emporia, and the tune of about 550 jobs lost immediately overnight, immediate closure. And so we were working through that today and deciding how we are going to grapple with that. And I carried a bill this year I brought up then, and I didn't know it could have profound impact, but it's going to be one of my requests to all of you is always think about diversifying in every single way. We know we have a great partner in Smithfield Foods. Many towns always think they have great large partners, but we also have to diversify what is out there in the town. And so I carried Senate Bill 1275. The governor signed into law, which was the business pad ready side. I saw an article in regard to that, and there was a reference, I think, to Pinewood Heights, but I would charge each of you to look at that bill and look at the additional investment opportunities that a town with infrastructure could offer a business if they chose to locate here, if it's right for the town. I will never tell you guys what's right for you. But you utilize those tools in the toolbox that were meant specifically for you. It's for towns or cities that are under 35 square miles with 25 acres or more to offer. Before this, VDP required anyone to have 100 acres or more to qualify for that. And there's been many conversations about how people feel about solar and other things of the like. And, I won't weigh in or ask your opinion, but what I will tell you this is that we know our towns have infrastructure. We have water and sewer and so many other amenities that our rural agricultural lands don't. And so if a project is approved in a county-wide perspective versus a town, the additional costs that are associated with that are much higher. And so now this bill passing, going into law, gives you all a tool in the toolbox to have an additional carrot to be able to apply for money or partner with the state for money for an investment opportunity. And so I hope that when the time is right and the project is right, that you all would utilize that opportunity, because now Emporia, which is a city of 8 square miles and not much unlike the town of Smithfield in size, is now very excited all of a sudden that that is a carrot they'll be able to use in hopefully attracting a new corporate partner or manufacturer, whatever the industry may be. And so, when we do some of these things, we hope that it's a tool you'll all be able to use. So, I share that story that I hope that we never have a moment like that, but to know that these things exist for us to be able to succeed in other ways. So just thank you for bearing with me as I shared that story. Also this year I carried a bill in regards to behavioral health. We know that our police departments and our sheriff's offices are spending quite an exorbitant amount of time on the road with ECOs and TDOs. And so I carried a bill that I worked with the Hospital and Healthcare Association on to change the definition of what a psychiatric ED was in adjacency to what bed space is in a hospital setting. Not every person that is seeking behavioral health care will need a physical bed, but it takes away maybe a bed in an ER when we can service them in an adjacent room or space that is more well suited for them. And so this definition will allow them flexibility, and it'll allow our police departments, our sheriff's offices not to spend the hours and hours and hours on end waiting for that transfer of care when they can transfer them to a space or facility that works, that is more flexible than a physical hospital bed that definition previously had. And so we're very excited to hope that that will bring down the commute time for our officers that are having to sit with those that are experiencing a behavioral health crisis and get them back to protecting our friends and families and neighbors in Smithfield and abroad. So very excited to work on that bill. Also, at the end of this year, we had a sound budget. We are still in a great bond rating situation in Virginia. Obviously, we balance, unlike the federal government, because we have sense, we'll say. But we also, I want to tell you the kind of health of where I think the Commonwealth is in our budget. So we had a $3.2 billion surplus. We're in the second year of a biennium, and usually we utilize one-time funding that second year. After last year's election, we always take a hard look at the December projections. We didn't see any change or dip there. The first quarter of this year, we didn't see any market change in down revenues or anything of that nature so far. And we have yet to see the second quarter projections, but I don't expect any major change. Virginia last year was just rated the #1 state to do business in, and I think as long as we're making prudent decisions at the state level and being responsible with putting funds in the rainy day fund as we did this year, we'll continue on that track to be an attractive place for those that would like to locate Virginia for business. Last but not least, there were several thousand bills that came before the General Assembly this year. There's about 1,800 that made it to the governor's desk, a little bit over 100 vetoes here or there or line amendments to those bills. But at the end of the day, I think that we had a strong bipartisan showing of a great final budget bill that the governor did sign, and I was very proud to see. And, as we look towards next year, it'll be the first year of our beginning budget, so that's when the bigger asks will come into play. We will be looking at new and innovative ways to look at the budget. And we'll have a lot of new friends maybe in the House, and maybe obviously we'll have somebody new in the governor's mansion, and so we'll be starting to learn all new people. And so this fall, as we open up the season for bill assignment and working through our legislative priorities, I would welcome the opportunity to meet with all of you to sit down and craft some of those, see what the legislative agenda is for the town. I do represent many independent towns, over 20, and then 11 localities. And so we do have bill cap limits, and so I like to amass from each town and each county and each city what their legislative priorities are, see what matches up that are similar, and see where we can work together to craft great legislation that will benefit everyone in the district that I serve. So with that, I'd love to take any questions from the council, and anything I can help you with, please let me know.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Brewer? Yes. I'll say Brewer, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's stuck in my head from some time ago.
I can still just be Emily. That's all right to me.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it.
Wow.
Yeah, you did a good job.
This is a lot easier than getting out my bills in the Senate. Maybe I'll come hang out here more.
Right.
So thank you all so very much. If there's anything I can do for any of you or anybody in the room, as always, please reach out. My email is senatorjordan@senate.virginia.gov. We have an office right on Main Street. If we're not there, slip something under the door. We'll make sure we call you. And as always, we're here to serve. So thank you so much to each of you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
At this time, we have public comments. We only have 2 people signed up to speak. The first one is Tommy G-Ring. Is G-Ring? Juring, I'm sorry, I guess I can't read you right.
Mayor and council, thank you for letting me speak. Tommy Gehring, 215 Cary Street. I guess I'm coming up about the same old thing about the speed on Cary Street. It's the only street in the historic area that's over 25 miles an hour. Everything else is 25 or less. I know that there's been speed studies done, but I've never seen the speed studies except for saying that the average is 32 miles an hour. Well, that could be when you take from 10 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, there's not going to be anything there. But during rush hour, it's crazy. And I know there's supposed to be radar, but I've never seen any. And I'm there quite a bit to see it. So I guess I'm coming to the town to see what we can do about slowing people down.
Anyone have any comments?
Yeah, I'll take a couple comments. Tom, it's nice to see you. I think you have several council members here that share your desire. And with the law that was passed by the state earlier this year, I thought we were golden and we could just go ahead and change it. What we have found out is that the speed limit must be posted at 25 or less, and then we could change it to nothing under 15. However, that's posted at 30. So now we have to deal with VDOT. And I will continue to fight for that. And I guess what I'm really trying to tell you is I'm on your side, and I'm all for it, and we're going to continue to fight that fight.
For almost 40 years, I've been on a road that goes from the county to another city, and the speed limit goes from 55 to 35. I've been told it's 10-mile increments. Well, it goes from 55 to 35, leaving Isle of Wight County. And it's the James River Bridge. When you get to Newport News, as soon as you get off that bridge, it drops to 35. So when they say that it has to be in 10-mile increments, I don't see where that's true. So why can't we just say the historic area is 25 or less? I mean,
And Tommy, I know we've been working on this for some time, so,
Yeah.
And we'll continue to do it. I travel that road a lot, and I try to slow down so people can't go around me. But even then, sometimes people will pass you. But I appreciate you coming up and reminding us to stay on top of this.
well, you have the speed monitor down there, I guess, showing what the speed is. I think some people like to see how fast they can get to. But I've seen them up to 55 miles an hour by that, and they start slowing down as soon as they get to the YMCA. So even if the police have a car that's broken down, if they could just park it at the water tower, that might slow somebody down instead of putting a speed bump or something. But years ago, they used to run radar right there, and it was great. But anyways, thank you for
All right,
listening.
thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
The next signed up is Lee Abbott Lehman.
Good evening. In 1958, a young bride and her husband left Belfast to immigrate, first to Petersburg, then Newport News, and ultimately to Smithfield. Many of you probably know the woman that I'm about to talk about. Serving Smithfield's health and well-being needs in her husband's practice, Smithfield Medical Center, she would actively work with Red Cross to bring blood mobiles to an underserved donor area. She went on to spearhead the first recurring fixed schedule drive, in Isle of Wight, and would ultimately go on to serve on the board of the American Red Cross in Norfolk. If ever a transplant has come to our town and shown how wonderful the energy can be, it would be Estelle Jameson. For any of us who knew her, I think we can all agree she left an indelible mark. Records aren't precise which year the steady drive started in Smithfield at the 6 times per year, but it's clear that Estelle was the force behind it. That our small town sustained drives now for nearly 4 decades is astounding. And I will tell you, it's most astounding to the Red Cross. When she was ready to step away about 10 years ago, Charlie Maudlin, thanks Charlie, recommended my name. I've stepped in and I serve as the volunteer coordinator for the Steady Smithfield Drives at Trinity. Our drive is valued and it's somewhat legendary in Norfolk. An example, when the world began to shut down in mid-March of 2022, we were the only public drive to be held in the entire district. Thanks greatly to the tireless support of our volunteers, Elaine Abbott, one of them, didn't even know she was going to get a shout out tonight, and the American Legion Auxiliary who manned it. We hoped for 20 to 25 donors. We stopped at 80. They had reached capacity. I have to thank all of the amazing volunteers over the years, most of whom Estelle herself coordinated, like the Masons, Danny and Rita. Like over 12,000 chairs over the years. Like just think about that endless effort, setting up and taking down for us. Valerie, thank you for sharing your contacts, who I finally have reached out to increase donorship in the African American community, which is really vital for sickle cell anemia treatment. Our current database following blood bank consolidation is all that I can work from, though I can state we are reaching 2 massive milestones, and I'm asking for collaboration with the town to make it happen. 2027 will be the 20th year on record with this consolidated database. Unfortunately, the first 15 years or so that Estelle led, they do not have really solid records of those because of consolidation within the Red Cross offices. So we are going to celebrate 20. We are at 8,319 units over the course of 101 drives, and I want to see our town make it to 10,000 in that 20th year. Among the 8,704 donor visits, we have solid retention. There must be a lot of iron eaten in Smithfield compared to other drives because we rank pretty highly for that. Among those, Bill Riddick, give yourself a star. Thank you for your steady donations, including Power Reds, supporting 6 to 8 patients each time you donate. There are a couple Biebermeyers in the local Hall of Fame. We have Patrick at 16 and Claire at 16 units. Most impressively, Gabby Biebermeyer, 70 units. Gabby's not that old. That's a lot of time on a Red Cross bed. I'm asking the council, and where permissible, the town staff support with donations yourselves. Blood. I want your blood. I'm not coming up here for any other contentious argument tonight. I know you've got a bunch of people behind me. Not even speaking to that. I just want your blood. I want your family members' blood. I want your neighbors' blood. I want anybody who works in the local store's blood. We want to get to that 10,000 and show American Red Cross what an amazing example of a small drive ours can be. Where permissible, if the town can share, we do post them up, the drives up through the Smithfield Rotary page for our exposure, and I would ask that the social media be allowed to share those events out. I know that the town may have restrictions on what is shared out when it's done by a service group. I would ask that if we could please do that, that would be fantastic. And then the continuous signage placement at the crack of dawn on the drives has been really fabulous, so thank you to the town for that. I am open to take any questions. We are really open to take your blood. I may have mentioned that already. We are coming up on May 22nd is our next drive. They are usually held at Trinity. They are pretty steadily held at Trinity. We only had a couple of exceptions when Mission of Hope has needed the space. And that's that. You can ask Bill how easy it is.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of work that has to go into that. I remember years ago that I was an avid blood giver, and it's important. It makes you feel good. Some people are a little leery about it, but once you do it a couple of times, it becomes pretty easy. So thank you so much. That's all we have signed up for public comments. We have council comments at this time. Any council member have a comment? Go ahead, Mr. Gullen.
Just for my fellow council members and our town attorney, I think after our discussion last week and just kind of reflecting back on discussing proffers and a number of questions that I've discussed with other council members and folks since that last committee's meeting, and then looking in reference to what I learned at the VCU course that I went to, which is a little different approach than what we're taking here. So I just want to see if we can maybe do some research or look at some other localities and see if we can compare, opportunities and make sure that we're taking care of our citizens and school children through those opportunities, because our schools are really about to be in a pretty overfilled or close to capacity situation. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? If not, we'll move to the consent agenda, and we have 5 items on there. The first one is C1. Mr. Bowman.
Yes, sir. C1, motion to adopt the Investigations Memorandum of Understanding MOU between the Department of Forensic Science, DNA Labs International Incorporated, and Smithfield Police Department. You will recall this has to do with the double homicide that we had at Jersey Park Apartments, and we're hoping that this MOU will bring to fruition some positive results. So I ask favorable consent on that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. We have C2 and C3. Mr. Jeff Brooks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to award a contract to Virginia Auction Company for the collection of delinquent taxes. And in addition to that, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution to appropriate fiscal year 23-24 highway funds to fiscal year 24-25 highway fund, as we need to get those properly appropriated. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, C4, we have Ms. Valerie Butler has a report for Public Buildings and Welfare.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the subdivision agreement for Mod Wash and Cypress Crossing Pump Station.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. I want to go back to C5. Jeff, can you give us the report on the required
Yes, sir.
authorization
Make a
over 20?
motion to approve the following 5 invoices. 1, Town Gun Shop for the amount of $24,538. 2, to Core and Main for water meters for $30,770. 3, Epps Building Incorporated for Town Hall window replacements for $24,600. 4, Virginia Control and Electrical Services in the amount of $88,308. And lastly, Flock Safety for Flock cameras in the amount of $30,000 even.
Okay, that concludes the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Call for the question.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
And we move to the action sections. The first we have is a public hearing, Ms. Tammy Clary, to speak on the Cottages at Battery, LLC.
Yes, thank you. The applicants are seeking a proffer amendment for the construction of 104 single-family attached condominium dwellings. This is in accordance with the zoning ordinance 3FB2. These units would have 0 lot line dwellings as attached residential and feature some units with attached rear detached garages. Each lot would conform to the required setbacks, lot widths, and minimums as if lot lines existed. The zoning district will remain the multifamily residential, and it'll feature a clubhouse, a pool, along with sidewalks connecting to Battery Park Road and Colonial Avenue. The applicants are providing 7.3 acres of common open space and 2.3 acres of active recreation open space. In order to facilitate this project, the applicants are applying for 2 special use permits. The first one is relief from 3EI2B, which requires 1 recreational vehicle parking space per every 4 dwelling units. No RV parking is provided. The second is for relief from Article 3EI6B, which requires not fewer than 3 attached units, and the applicants are only attaching not more than 2 units. This application was tabled at the November 2024 Planning Commission meeting and was favorably recommended to Town Council at the April Planning Commission meeting with 1 dissenting vote. This project does reduce the number of previously approved units by 46 units and does provide additional housing within town. Just as a reminder, we do treat the condominium units in the zoning ordinance through SUPs if they do not comply with the zoning requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clary. I'd like to open up the public hearing. We have two people signed up to speak on that. We have a Danny Belot.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor,
And everyone has 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yes.
thank you.
Appreciate it. And
Right.
please, yes, please state your name and address.
Danny Ballot, I live in the Villas of Smithfield, 411 Ginger Loop, Smithfield, Virginia. I'd just like to say that we know there's going to be building on the site where the cottages are being proposed to be built. There's been a lot of changes. Originally, when they first came out, they came to saw us and gave us a presentation. Didn't have a lot of answers at that time, and we've been to the meetings with y'all at the Planning Commission, and it seems like no one has been communicating with us at all. Either the builder or the only time I get an answer is when I call the town myself and ask questions or read it on the internet. There's a problem there with traffic. You got 800 homes going in across Wellington. You got another 100 right there at the cottages. That road is not set up for that kind of traffic. We found out by one of our members that lives there that when they did that study on the highways out there, there was only, they only count our driveway as one. They don't count as 76 homes in there. The VDOT only counts it as one. And we got 76 homes in there. So that's the numbers don't add up. We've also asked for a light. I don't think we'll ever get a light, but maybe Wellington and the new ones, 800 homes might get a light. But we still would like to have that stop sign or up at the corner of Church Street and at Battery Park changed from just red, turn on red, to stop. So completely stop. It might give people a chance to pull their cars on out without having that continuous line of traffic coming towards us. I'm not here to badmouth the builder. I don't know that much about him. I would like more communication with them. We do have a shared interest. They're going to be our neighbors, and we just like to make sure that we are abreast of what they're doing, because we certainly are open-minded. If there's anything we can do that with the town council, we'd be glad to answer any of your questions. That's all I got.
Thank you so much for coming forward. At this time, we have David Hunley.
I'm David Hunley at 210 Villa Drive. I basically want to go on record by saying that my front door faces the development of the cottages at Battery, and I oppose the development of this property for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Any other questions? Anybody wants to step forward that's not signed up?
I'd like to point out to council, we have about 15 homeowners here tonight. This is a show of a force coming in to see y'all.
Okay, thank you. If not, yes.
Bob Hines, 216 Washington. Are there plans in the works to do anything with the intersection signal at Battery Park and Church Street?
That's VDOT.
Yeah, but this is not a question and answer.
Yeah.
Public hearing for, you can offer your comments.
Well, it has to do with the project.
Yeah, but we have nothing to do with the signaling. The town doesn't, so, at that intersection.
Fair enough.
Any other comments? Anybody wants to come forward? If not, I'll close the public hearing. What's the will of council on this matter?
Do you want to hear from the applicant?
If he wants to speak,
Well,
yes.
it's his public hearing. He gets an opportunity
He's happy to come forward.
He gets an opportunity to make his case.
Mayor and council, my name's Brian Mullins,
And Nathan Deal.
we've been at this for a year and a half. We have definitely changed our plans from the original, as well as not just the volume or the yield, but the product in which we're producing. We have gone from 6 SUPs down to just 2, as well as a variance or waiver that we didn't need either. At this point, we have met everything that we feel like has been asked of us. If there's things other than that, we've been here through work sessions as well as discussion periods, and we welcome any of your all comments. I think we've shown that we listen.
I
You don't have
one
any questions?
observation. I do have one question, Mr. Mullins. I thought that the tenant from the villas brought up a pretty pertinent concern. The original builder did do a presentation to the villas, and my question is, did you all ever meet with them to give them a presentation of what you were doing to kind of get feedback from them?
Yes, ma'am. We did meet with the villas, as he said, and we've been in correspondence. Any questions that have been directed to us, we've answered. I've seen no correspondence other than any questions that have been brought forth that we've answered.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Mullins?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Actually, for planning staff or Mr. Stallings, I think that this is a vote on the 2 special use permits or the proffer amendments. Am I correct? So can you just go through the timeline, future timeline of this? What else is to be approved following this, please?
So this would be the proffer amendment, and then the 2 special use permits. They would still have to come back with a site plan that we would then review to verify conformance.
So are we voting for both of those elements tonight?
There's 3 elements. There's 2 special use permits, and then the 1 proffer amendment.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
I will note, too, that through our last discussion last Monday, we did make changes to the proffers to include all building materials or be maintenance. So yes, ma'am, that has been answered.
Any other questions?
I wonder if you could address Mr. Balot's concern regarding traffic.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
I mean, sometimes sometimes you have better luck with VDOT than we do.
Yes, ma'am. So the original 150 units had its own traffic study performed at that time. We had a new traffic study updated for, as you remember, we were proposing 130 units. We had the traffic study updated for those 130 units, and it showed that what we are proposing is adequate, that there needed to be no changes to the VDOT right-of-way anywhere. And as we're reducing the 130 to 104, obviously that traffic study still stands.
Any other questions? If not, I'll close that public hearing, and we'll move to the public hearing on Battery Park Road. Do we need to vote on that?
No, you.
Yeah. That was just a hearing.
You had your public hearing.
Yes.
The applicants made their presentation. It's before the town council for your consideration, whatever action you want to take.
Yeah. Vote or table, right?
What's the will of council?
Mr. Mayor, this is a scenario I'd like to, to ask council a question. The bottom line, I think, that we would like to do is to reduce density. And I think with the actions that have been taken, the density is reduced by a net of 46.
Yes, sir. 41%.
I'm sorry?
No, it's 40%, yes.
Again, what is concerning to me is that if we do not move forward with the allowance of these special use permits, they by right, Mr. Riddick, correct me if I'm wrong, they by right, by virtue of what was initially approved, could revert back to what was initially offered. And increase the density back to what it was. Is that correct?
They can build a project that was approved, which was 150, 15 10-unit multi-story units.
So, I think we're in a situation that they have worked to reduce the density. I just think at this juncture that it's a scenario that no one wants more development. We get that, we hear that. But at the same time, if we can reduce density, and the developers are here to offer the opportunity to reduce the density, I think that that this project certainly deserves consideration. Mr. Riddick, does this require individual votes for each one of the SUPs, or does this?
How is it advertised, Tammy?
The SUPs are advertised together, the proper amendment is advertised separately.
All right, you need to vote on the proffer amendment and then the special use permits.
Well, at this point, at least for discussion, I'd make a motion that we approve the SUPs as presented.
It should be the proffer amendment first.
I'm sorry, the proffer amendment.
That'd be first.
First. That's my motion.
Mr. Mayor, I have a few more questions before we proceed with the vote, if that's okay. The first is either for the town attorney or Mr. Stallings. So we continue to hear about the 150 units, and it's completely valid, I agree. My question is, what step in this process nullifies that? For instance, we approve Mr. Mullins' 104 units, or let's say we approve the proffer agreement, and then he decides to sit on it for 15, 20 years and not build it for some reason, market crash, who knows. But the 150 units, at what point of this review process will be nullified and then locked in 104 units, and that threat can no longer be made?
If you approve the proffered conditions, then the previous proffered conditions are no longer valid.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
That's correct.
Okay, so then they could no one could then.
They can't go back and say, now I want to build the 150. I'd rather build that project. It's not a buffet. They don't get to build one or the other. Whichever one you approve is the one they can build, and they have to build it like they said they were going to build it. That's the whole point about the proffers, and that's why there's a lot of detail. For example, Mr. Harris brought up last week about the deficiency in the specificity about maintenance of the exterior by the condo association. So all that was included in the revised proffers because we want specificity. I think you made a provision about specifying 1-ton limitation on vehicles that can be parked because there was a discussion about people's work trucks and things like that. So the more specificity that was included in the proffers, the better. We've just had that issue with Cypress Creek, so we're very sensitive about that. But whatever they say they're going to do, that's what they have to do. And that applies to the previous application too. That if this fails, then they still have vested rights in building what was approved by the original developer.
And that's certainly the rationale behind my making the motion.
We have a motion. We have a motion at this time.
I had another question, please.
Yes, go ahead.
So as it relates to that, in my initial question or discussion point in council comments at the beginning, just wanted to revisit briefly my discussion last week and make sure we're all clear, council members, that we have 3 developments in progress right now, the Promontory, the Grange, and this one, right? And, excuse me?
The Promontory hasn't come before us yet.
Yeah.
Well, but we know, right? I mean, I got 500 pages of reading on it, so, but we have their proffers, right? And what we see, this is the way I see it, as a race. You have 3 developers off to a race. And I will tell you that the winner pays or doesn't pay, and if the cottages were to win the race, so to speak, the schools is the loser because there's nothing proffered there. contrasted to the promontory has proffered if they are the ones that put our schools over the limit. So you can see the conundrum of three different developers. One is going to exceed 100%, absolutely at our middle school, and the proffer situation on who puts that school over 100% is not the same among builders. So that school, if Promontory puts it over 100%, is going to receive revenue to help that school and with building the school system, build a new school. But if this development gets to 100% first, then the schools will receive no revenue. So I just want to make sure that's clear in this current proffer agreement and in the proffer agreement for the Promontory, the differences of those.
Well, and I understand your point, Mr. Cutler, but the problem, the distinction is the Promontory is potential, it's an application, they have no rights whatsoever. This property, and zoning follows the property, not the developer, and this property has been approved without cash proffers because the school system has said there is no impact. And this proffer reduces the number of units. So by analysis and common sense, that means there will be less impact on the schools than the larger 150 unit project. The problem is we rely on the school systems and they have to give us feedback. Ms. Clary sends out requests and asks for feedback from the schools. And the schools have not provided any information that would indicate that this project causes disparate impact on the school system. The county's capital improvement plan does not identify capital projects for school projects. And so without those two tools, they're under no obligation, nor are you really, not you, but the county is really not in a position to accept the proffers. The county attorney opined on that last week, 2 weeks ago, in front of the planning commission. He told them that without the analysis by the county and without the proper documentation in the capital improvement plan, he told them that if they were offered the money, they couldn't accept it. It's not my opinion, that's the county attorney's opinion, and he is sitting there purportedly, he's not the school board attorney, but he works in close association with the school system and the administration, and so I can't contradict what he's saying.
Yeah, and I appreciate that presentation of facts, and back to my opening comment is that in my research, and I'm not an attorney, but in my reading, I did see that about the comprehensive plan. And so my point in the beginning and opening in public and in council comments was that we need to do something about this, right? Not that maybe we can't solve it today, but we could do something about it. We could put something in our comprehensive plan or work with the county to make sure that we are working together with them to make sure we're maximizing our revenue to our school systems, because they are in a bad way. And what I've seen from the school system does not look good.
Well, and previous town councils have made a commitment, and you're not bound by it, but I think you would honor it, and that is to accept proffers, school proffers of whatever nature that are legal that can be passed on to the county wherever it is appropriate. We've made that commitment. The town as a whole has made that commitment. But they have to give you the tools in order to be able to do that. And I would tell you, at this point, I don't think they've done that. And there's been some email traffic back and forth with the school board, I think, about I think they have similar concerns. And so I think that your concern starts with them, and I think you're standing in the wings saying, we're willing to help you, but you got to help yourselves.
Yes, and also figuring out our own way. I mean, I don't think we're completely dependent on them to figure out an avenue, but I think that we are asking for, to let us help you type of thing.
Okay, we'll get back in order here, if we will. We've got a motion. Would you like to restate your motion, Mr. Bowman?
Yes, sir, basically to approve the proper conditions as provided.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? Call for the question, please.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
No.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
No, you're not through.
I know. We gotta get, I just wanted to thank them for being patient. All of us have been patient. Now, at this time, I just close the public hearing.
Well, no, you-
Well, I-
At
Next to
this
SUPs.
time,
No.
at this time, in conjunction with my previous motion, I think they follow pretty much hand in hand. The only thing that I would like to make a motion that we approve the 2 SUPs that have been published. And I know we can't do anything as far as VDOT is concerned. Maybe I should make a request after that we do whatever we can to contact VDOT. I'll tell you what, go ahead and do that, then I'll make a comment pertaining to VDOT. I'll leave it at that, because I share their concern as far as that light's concerned, but I don't think we ought to join this because it's not really appropriate to this specific case. But I do make the motion that we approve both SUPs as published.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the 2 SUPs. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Brooks. Any further questions? If not, call for the question.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Mr. Mayor, as a point of
Yes.
personal privilege, if I may, in reference to that light they're talking about, I come out of that intersection across the street from the light that they're talking about because I live over in that neighborhood. It's a very dangerous light. And at any given time, if you had someone, it's just not for y'all to have, but if you will listen, if you maybe you can help me with it. At any given time, if somebody decides they want to get into an accident, I'm telling you right now, people making the left turn when those folks are trying to get out, coming out of the intersection where Ringo's is, it allows the person coming out by Ringo's to have the right-of-way while the heavy flow of traffic is desiring to make a left-hand turn off of Battery Park onto South Church Street. It is very dangerous. It is extremely dangerous. I'm surprised, and I don't know what the traffic accident reflects, but we're lucky we don't have more than we do. So if we could somehow along the way look into that, I think it would be the appropriate thing to do, because it's not that many vehicles that come out of that intersection where Ringo's are, but the ones that do, it really sets up a bad scenario for the potential for a bad accident. So I just want to let the folks from the village know exactly. I see it, I get it, and I understand it. And as a former state trooper, I know it's a dangerous intersection.
Yeah, and I'll just add that the Mallory Scott project is going to be doing improvements to the intersection. So in later phases, their traffic impact analysis does have improvements to that intersection in it. So they will be doing work to that intersection as they move along with their project.
And one other thing, if I can, this council, I think, has shown significant faith in you guys. You guys have done a lot coming back and forth and back and forth. Please do your best to work with those folks over in the village that have been there for a while, and whatever you can. And I know they would appreciate it. I've talked to them before in different forums and things like that. So whatever you can do so that we have a good working relationship would be much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes.
Thank you again. Next, we have a public hearing on the 219 Battery Park Road special use permit. Ms. Clary?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking approval for a special use permit under Article 3K C16 for outdoor storage. They are planning on storing not more than 6 vehicles for not longer than 2 weeks at a time, and they will be concealed behind the fence. This was favorably recommended to Town Council with a condition allowing them to store these vehicles up to 30 days. This SUP would bring this property into compliance as outdoor storage has been occurring for numerous years. This is not a by right use and does require an SUP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clary. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Does anyone from the public want to speak about this?
Yes, I'm Trevor Darling.
Okay,
owner of
you're the
CNC.
applicant, right? Is that correct?
Cable Massengill.
Anybody signed up?
Yeah.
There are no
one si-
sign-ups.
No one signed up.
Okay.
You want to speak further about this, on this matter?
If you guys want anything to know about it, I mean, like I said, last couple of times, we were gonna keep the place clean, upright, to the neighborhood, to possessions, car, people driving by. It's not gonna be trashy. It's nothing gonna be seen from the street.
Yeah. The main thing was everything is always be hidden behind the fence.
Yeah, I know,
And way back,
you know,
not even by the.
good. I know you're going to be watched, so.
Yes.
Any other comments that anybody wants to make? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I rode by the property today, and I think it looks good, and everything will be fine behind the fence. I make a motion to approve
We have a
the SUP for outdoor storage.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Call for the question?
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming up.
Thank you. So we're approved now?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. It's been a long journey, sorry. You know, it's like.
Yes, sir.
You're good.
Thank y'all for your patience.
Hurry up, get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't hang around, we might change your mind. Have a good.
Next, we have a public hearing for 208 Middle Street for a special use permit. Ms. Clary?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking to utilize the property at 208 Middle Street as a child daycare home occupation. This will be for not more than 8 children, ages 2 months to 5 years, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. This was favorably recommended to Town Council with a grace period extending the hours until 6 p.m., provided the applicant maintains state licensing and provides the semi-annual inspection reports within 30 days, and also staff's recommendation of Isle of Wight County Building Code compliance. The applicant has stated that they are considering adding a fence, but they are not required under state regulations as the applicant is a family day home, not a child care facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clary. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone wants, excuse me, anyone wants to speak on this? How about the applicant? Is the applicant here? Yeah, would you like to speak on this matter? Okay. Okay, then considering that, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion
Mr. Mayor,
to address this?
before we have a motion, to the applicant, I want to be real upfront with you and tell you that I will have a difficult time voting yes if you do not commit to a fence. I have been at the property, I've walked the property. That is not a safe area, in my opinion, for children to be out. So I know the state recommends that you are a private home care as opposed to licensed, but this is a significant concern for me.
Mr. Mayor, I have a few questions. For the applicant, first, will it be occupied outside of business hours?
My name is Diamond Humphrey, 208 Middle Street, Smithfield, Virginia. Can you repeat the question for me?
Will the residence be occupied outside of those business hours?
Yes, sir. So a family day home is offering childcare in your primary residence, so I am required to live there in order for it to be classified as such.
Okay. And then I saw a couple of letters from the neighbors
Sure.
Were any of the concerns discussed and resolved with the neighbors?
Yes, sir. So I had the pleasure of going out to speak with the neighbors this week, and I was able to introduce myself and address their concerns. So that was done, yes, sir.
How many staff members will be there?
It will be me and 2 part-timers.
And 8 children?
Yes, sir. And the part-timers will rotate shifts, so they will switch out. So it'll be 2 adults most of the time with the 8 children.
So the regular staffing will be 2 adults?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I share Mr. Harris's concerns. I drove by the property too, and it's rather narrow. And your adjacent neighbor was one of the letter writers, I believe. And I share those same concerns that Mr. Harris has with the lack of fencing and the safety of the children and the neighborhood itself, safety and well-being. And that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request of the daycare facility at 208 Middle Street.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. We have a second.
Ms. Butler, the staff recommendation was, well, the recommendation from the planning commission was with a grace period from the time period until 6 p.m.
I'm sorry, okay.
And that the applicant maintains state licensing and provides semi-annual inspection reports 30 days, and staff recommendations of Alawite County Building Code compliance. They were the conditions.
So moved with those conditions.
Okay. So
Mr. Mayor,
we have a motion.
Can I ask a question about that?
Can we get the second, then we can go to discussion? Do we have a second?
I'll make a second and move it toward discussion.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, now, any further discussion?
For the town attorney, is this a clause we can sunset, like we approve it for 1 year and we want to review?
Yes, you can, you can review it in a year like you did with, we talked about the Airbnb. We talked about that. Yes, it can be under review.
So we could put it under annual or biannual review, or?
Well, what we've done in the past, well, similarly with the Airbnbs, we did 1 year review and then every 2 years was if there are no problems. But, I mean, you can do what you want to.
And Mr. Stallings, do we have other home care providers in town under special use permit?
Yeah, we do, but I don't believe we have any on annual reviews.
Okay.
We do have others.
Yeah, that was my next question. Thank you.
I'm curious, Darren, why would you want it set up on annual review? Especially if if they're in state compliance and they are following up with them. Just curious.
So my only concern is the neighbors wrote in with concerns. It sounds like hopefully they were addressed by the applicant, but they didn't withdraw their letters, so it's not clear. So with it being a project that doesn't currently exist in the neighborhood, just seeing if it works out for the neighborhood would be one way. I have a little concern about creating things that last in perpetuity for the town that can never be withdrawn. It seems like it has the potential to,
The difference between rezoning and a special use permit is a special use permit can be revoked. And so it's not a blank check forever, whereas zoning follows a piece of property until it is otherwise changed. So that's the distinction.
Mr. Riddick, do we have a report that's given to us by the state each year when they do that? Do they do that?
Well, no, but
That's one of the conditions.
That's one of the conditions. is
Yeah,
that-
that's what I
that there
thought,
will
yeah,
be-
yeah. So we get notification to that.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That's one of the conditions that was included in the recommendation from Planning Commission and as part of Ms. Butler's motion.
I have a comment too. I'm in favor of this. I think we do need these kind of daycares, and I do like I like the setting that it's in a neighborhood. I am concerned about the fence, though. It's close to the road. There's you and one other person. I know how little kids are. One goes one way, somebody goes somewhere else. So I am concerned about that. Not for, I mean, I don't think the neighbor will mind if some little child wanders into their yard temporarily. However, it only takes a second for a child, and we do not want, obviously we do not want to have anything, we want to keep these kids safe. So, so like I say, I think it's a great idea. I commend you for offering this service, but I would really encourage you to find some sort of fenced-in something there. That would make me feel a lot better.
Yes, ma'am.
Before you jump in.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Let me just reiterate what Mary Ellen just said. I am 100% behind your project. It's a great project. It's a wonderful place for it. We definitely need it. My concern over the fencing is, again, significant. I would love to hear an answer to that question, if you would consider doing that.
Absolutely. I've considered adding a fence. I just know that it's not required by the state, but it's definitely something that I'm considering doing. And I'm not opposed to that being something that is done at all. I 100% agree with safety being the first thing.
So then, Town Attorney, so can I substitute motion
Yes, you can.
with a condition?
You can, but let me,
Or
can I ask
friendly
you-
amendment.
let's, before you get there,
Yeah.
can you give her some feedback? What kind of fence are you looking for? The backyard? Is that what are you talking about? 'Cause I think she needs to know what give her some direction so that she knows what you're talking about. Just a fence to do what?
Yeah, I would say at least a 4-foot privacy fence. If I were building that daycare, I'd probably go with 6 feet.
In the rear of the home?
In the rear of the home.
So
That's why I said 4.
Well, most, aren't fences 3.5 feet tall?
Yeah, about 3.
Standard.
3 to 4.
Standard
Anywhere
standard
from,
fence. 42 inches?
If this were a state licensed facility, the requirement would be a minimum of 60 square feet, 4 feet around.
4 feet around?
Yes.
Well, you can make that as an additional condition of your,
I would say whatever standard building fence that they sell would be fine for 2 to 5-year-olds.
she's gonna have to come before town anyway for an application.
She just has to get all she has to do is
Just get a
she's
permit.
got to get a zoning permit.
Right, that's what I mean, yeah,
But
before she can put the fence
so
up.
you have to get a zoning permit, but not a building permit.
Right.
If it sounds that she's amenable to a fence, so you could make a substitute, someone, if they wish to, could make a substitute motion to include a condition that they erect a 4-foot fence in the rear of the home.
Or Ms. Butler could accept a friendly amendment to her motion, correct?
She could.
If she wanted to do that, as the maker of the motion.
I prefer Darren or Mayor Harris to make an amendment in the motion.
To include
To
your
include
statement,
what
your
they-
statement, yeah, but
yeah.
you, okay.
And before I do, Mayor Smith, as a home builder, what is the appropriate height then? Is it 3.5 feet?
It's varies, 3 to 4 feet.
Okay.
I mean, so,
All right.
Mr. Harris says that
yeah, it's supposed
4
to be
feet.
4 foot.
For a commercial
So,
facility. All right. I would like to make a substitute motion, Mr. Mayor. And I would motion to approve the special use permit as briefed from the Planning Commission, with the exception of an approximately 4-foot privacy fence in the backyard required. So,
Okay, we have a substitute motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second by Mr. Bowman.
I do have a question. Bill, does it have to be a privacy fence?
No.
Just something that the kids can't
Yeah.
fit through.
What would be more cost-effective?
Just an open fence.
Yeah, just an open chain.
Yeah.
But I thought Darren said a private fence, private fencing. Didn't you say that?
I did say that. I can clarify. A 4-foot fence.
Okay. All right, we have a motion.
So just for the record, your
Yes.
motion is, I believe it is, to approve, well, this a special use permit with the conditions as set, as recommended by the planning commission, and with the additional condition that the applicant install a 4-foot fence in the rear of the home.
Yes.
To meet the
That's correct.
state regulations?
Well,
Is that,
All right, I'm going to ask, is there,
doesn't say that, that's true.
the state may not require that, but the rest of the application requires that they comply with state regulations. Anyway.
The applicant has a question.
I'd
Yes,
like to
ma'am.
make a comment, please. So I'm not required statewide to have a fence at all. So I just want to clarify that that is not the fence the requirements of the fence are not to be state required, because I'm not required to have a fence at all, if that makes sense.
And that's what Mr. Harris was saying, and that's why that part was not added to the fence requirement. But the fence requirement is an additional condition imposed by the town council.
Gotcha.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the amended motion.
Okay, we vote on the amended motion first. You call for the question, please?
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
yes,
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you for coming up. At this time, we have a public hearing for Lockerbie, 105 Lockerbie Special Use Permit. Ms. Clary?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking an accessory apartment. This is in accordance with the zoning ordinance, Article 2Q. The apartment resident is related to the owners of the primary structure by blood, adoption, or marriage, and the primary structure will continue to be occupied. The applicant is proposing a 655 square foot accessory apartment located over the 816 square foot garage. This is in compliance with Article 2Q8A. The structure will be approximately 18 feet in height. This application was favorably recommended to Town Council at the April Planning Commission meeting. It does allow the applicants to have an accessory apartment in conformance with the zoning ordinance. However, this is not a by right use and does require an SUP. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone like to come forward to speak on this matter? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Well, what's the direction of council? Oh, applicant, okay, please come up.
I'm William Campbell. I live at 213 Keswick Place in Smithfield, Virginia. My company name is Will Chris Services. I'm the contractor that's building the garage at 105 Lockerbie for Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. I'd like to thank you guys for being here tonight and listening to all of us talk to you all and taking time from your family to make this happen. We started building the detached garage about a month and a half ago. So the structure is already existing that we have, and the Rogers would like to finish an apartment up above the garage in the attic space to make room for a family member that is in need of a living space. We have looked at the impact to the community. There won't be any negative impact at all. There won't be any additional car traffic coming from this facility. The infrastructure is already existing for the facility. There will not be any exterior changes to the approved building that we have in place already to the Homeowners Association and Alawite County with their building permits. So overall, there's no negative impact at all to the community, and we would like to go ahead and move forward with getting the special use permit if that's acceptable to you guys tonight.
Okay, anyone have any questions for the applicant? If not, we'll close the public hearing again and need a motion from council.
Mr. Mayor, I move we move forward and accept the special use permit as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, call for the question.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
yes,
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Thank you for coming up.
Okay, thank you guys for your time.
Next, we have a public hearing on 110 Thomas Street. This is a BHAR appeal. Pardon?
I think you missed one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I did. Public hearing on 328 Main Street, special use permit. Tammy?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking approval to rent 328 Main Street, an existing single-family dwelling, as a short-term and long-term rental property. The zoning ordinance, Article 2Z1, short-term rentals as principal uses are permissible by special use permit only. There are no changes to the property proposed in order to accommodate the short-term rental. This was favorably recommended to Town Council at the April Planning Commission meeting. It does provide additional accommodations in the historic district. This is not a by right use and does require an SUP. Any recommendation should be conditioned on the applicant following the conditions outlined in 2Z1A through I, except for item B. These conditions do require a signed and notarized short-term rental affidavit to ensure compliance. Based upon the discussions at committees, it did seem as though condition of approval where the application would be reviewed by the Planning Commission the first year and then every 2 years thereafter. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing. Would the applicant or anyone else like to come forward, please?
I'll take a personal thing, skipped over it.
Please don't, please don't.
Jim Collins, 1109 Cypress Creek Parkway. First off, this is not a primary function of this rental unit. It's the primary function, it was a midterm rentals and we were going to do things, but there were some gaps in the rental periods that some people came to us and said, hey, can we stay there for a week or so during festivals or use it for a long weekend? And I knew you weren't allowed to do that. So this is just another tool in our toolbox that we could use that. It's not necessarily going to be a primary function to where it's going to be used all the time. I did speak to the our neighbor before planning commission. He actually just asked me, he was more concerned with security and said that if we can be in contact when we are going to rent it for short term, that he would basically, I don't want to say be our security system, but he would be somebody next door that would have our phone numbers, and if anything is going a little bit strange, that he would give us a call, and I have no problem with that. I think it's a great idea. So again, it's just not a primary unit, it's just something else that when we have gaps in our midterm rentals, if there's something that's going on in town that we can get somebody in there for a week or something and enjoy the festivals, then that's the main purpose of this.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Collins, when we discussed this at committee, a question came up, and it sounds like you've already addressed this. This is a shared driveway.
Yes.
And your neighbor is fine and dandy with
yes.
the in and out and all of that
yes.
type thing.
And we have, I mean, I've had 3 cars in the back, and there was room for another 1 or 2-ish, smaller ones. So we do have the room in the back for all, but we don't want. I know one of the conversations was about a whole bunch of cars. So this is not going to be a rental unit that we're going to have 10 individual cars there. If that happens, we're not going down that road. There's just no way.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mr. Collins?
First, I drove by the home. It looks great. It's a great job on that. Are you planning to rent it short-term more than 104 nights a year?
No. It's our plan. We actually have someone in there now that hoping he turns into a long-term rental, just not sure.
So does it require an SUP to do less than 104 nights a year?
Well, but we want the option. That's what the whole thing is. This is just an option that we don't want to. If all of a sudden things do change and we don't, and it can't rent for a midterm or a long term, and we have a bunch of things that's going on and we want to. I just want to make sure we have the option. I don't want to break any ordinances by not having it. It's just easier to have it in the toolbox than not have it.
So this is not something that I wouldn't necessarily want. I get what you're saying. Short term, medium term. Whatever. Could be 3 months. Could be a month. Could be a weekend. It could be. Right. That was my concern. I think that I'm not crazy about having different people there every weekend, talking bachelorette parties or whatever.
Right, right, yes.
So that's not your intention to have this be very short term.
No, we're going to be more stringent than that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyone else have any questions?
Comment. Darren, I'd like to point out one of the very first votes that I had on this council was, we had one of these, and I termed it a permanent Airbnb, meaning year-round, you could rent it out. That's just an easier way to think about it versus a short-term or 104 nights, et cetera. And the reason that I voted it down then was because it was in the historic district, and I thought that the historic district should be protected. That subsequently did pass. It's the one on Institute Street. So this one came up, and I'm having a hard time with it because I like the idea. I like the location. I think it will provide more lodging, et cetera. Main Street is a little different than Gray Street and Institute Street, where it's all residential, although
It's all residential there.
Yeah.
I mean, along that section.
It's going to have a business right beside it.
I'm just having a discussion here. If that were truly in the residential section, Gray Street, for instance, or Cedar, there's no question I would be voting this down. I'm having a hard time with that statement because now Main Street is commercial. And if you have the blessing from a neighbor, that's even more reason for me to say, well, this should go through. And I just wanted to share those comments.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Main Street, if we're going to have a couple of short-term rentals, Main Street's probably the place to have them. A little concerned about the parking. I couldn't tell from the street. Do you have gravel parking back there? Is it
Grass. It's gravel under the grass, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then just for the council, aside from the applicant, I think that, as these continue to proliferate, because we just had one over by Red Point that didn't pass, might be a future discussion item perhaps at the retreat, so we can maybe drill in on this policy a little bit.
Well, and that's going to be my concern, is that all of them that we have now in town they're all downtown. And so I don't want our downtown historic district to, one after the other, have short-term rentals. So I am concerned about that. If we had them, I agree it's a great tool for tourism, it's another accommodation. But I don't want to go down a slippery slope and say they're all downtown. If they were spread out a little bit, I get why people want to be downtown. It's a great place to be. So I'm a little bit torn by that.
Yeah, I share those concerns too, and putting a limit on it now before we've let the genie out too far out of the bottle, I think would be appropriate for us to discuss in a separate meeting.
I agree with you, Darren, but Mary Ellen, in this particular case, the Airbnb or the short term is secondary.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me feel a little better about this.
Yeah, and if I understood correctly, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
what I think the gentleman's doing is basically coming before us, saying, I don't want to circumvent the law. I want to be straight up with you folks, and this is why I'm asking for this, and especially since he's got the blessing of neighbors and Mr. Riddick and I can both tell you, after having rented on Main Street for some years that we both did, and I don't remember if they were short-term, long-term, or I probably, back then, it was probably month to month if you could pay the rent, but with what we were making. But anyway, and that's really specifically in that area. They're right, they are, I think it was 331 Main is where, right beside the next, one down from the hardware store, when it was there, whatever. So this is not novel to this area, and we never saw any real significant problems with short-term rentals. Keep in mind, there was an apartment complex, I guess it's still operating that way with some short-term rentals all the way down on the corner of Cary Street and Main Street. So the fact that the neighbors are not having a problem, and not to mention, quite honestly, I think honesty should be rewarded to an extent, and that's the reason he's here. So that's my 2 cents.
Any other questions for Mr. Collins?
No, but I'll make a final comment because I'm a neighbor. Steve kept looking over here like, you know, you might want to jump in, and sort of to allay some of the concerns of other council members. There have often been 3, 4, 5 cars in the back, and we are absolutely unaware of that, you know, unless I'm back there looking at it. Like several of my colleagues at the table, I share the concern also that we do not want to go down that slippery slope, and we do not want to populate the heart of the historic district off of Main Street, which already has a number of places where people can rent and stay. So this neighbor reluctantly, just because, has no problem with this at all.
Any other comments? Mr. Collins, anything further?
Nothing further.
Appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
And if there are no other comments, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the SUP for this.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the short-term rental. Do we have a second?
With the conditions
Yes.
from planning
Yes.
commission.
Yes. Sorry, thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any other further discussion? If not, call for the question.
Councilwoman Beebermeyer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. At this time, item number 7, we have a motion to accept the nominating committee's
Number 6.
recommendation.
Or
Number
six.
6.
Have I missed another one? Huh?
110.
I keep missing it for some reason. I don't know why. I had it checked off, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have a public hearing for 110 Thomas Street. Ms. Clary.
Yes, thank you. The applicants are appealing the Board of Historic and Architectural Review's March 19, 2025 decision, which resulted in conditional approval for their proposed exterior changes to the single-family dwelling located at 110 Thomas Street, which is a contributing property. The BHAR did approve all requested exterior changes presented except for 2. The BHAR approved the replacement of all exterior trim with a solid PVC material, and then they also approved the use of a Hardy branded or an equivalent composite material for the soffits. The use of vinyl products has generally been discouraged in the historic district. I included excerpts from the newly updated historic district guidelines in the staff report as well. According to the appeals process, this application is forwarded to Town Council for their review and decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clary. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Does anyone like to come forward and speak on this matter for the appeal? The applicant here?
Good evening. Joe Barnes, 110 Thomas Street. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Smith, Vice Mayor Harris, council members, staff, and public participants. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight and to engage in the civic process. I have a few opening words and then slides for discussion will follow. I'm supported here tonight by Mr. Robert Jones and Ms. Jennifer Berry of R.A. Jones, Inc., our contractor. My wife, Faith, and I are the owners of the property subject to tonight's public hearing. First, we recognize the importance and appreciate the role that BHAR and council serve as stewards of our town's historic perspective. Having been members of the Smithfield community for almost 30 years, Faith and I are sensitive to such considerations and were deliberate in our approach with the contractor on a plan for rejuvenation of our 90-year-old home. Our goals were to maintain the architectural style of our Dutch colonial while introducing enhancements, including use of modern materials to protect its longevity. 2, to provide for lower maintenance needs as we enter our later years in life. We believe the changes will not only preserve the contributing perspective of our home, but will create a more attractive appearance for passersby entering and leaving the Grace Street corridor through Thomas Street. Following the BHAR meeting, we reviewed the impact of the condition terms related to the wrap trims and vinyl soffits and have arrived here tonight for this appeals process. From our perspective, the conditions present use of materials and constructions which do not preserve the desired architectural integrity of the existing features and which project increased future maintenance cost, higher maintenance cost, and higher than planned costs. We respectfully request that council consider and exercise its discretion to relieve the conditional approval items applied during the BHAR meeting on March 19th, 2025, and permit us to proceed with the original material plan submitted in our BHAR application, which include white and accent colored mastic coated aluminum for the various trims and the bead board style non-composite polymer for soffits. We believe our request to use the above mentioned materials of construction is reasonable and not inconsistent with the intent and flexibilities afforded in the BHAR guidelines, best practices and avoidances and not prohibitions. So we respectfully ask council to grant us the requested relief. I appreciate you letting me have those few opening words. Now I'd like, if it pleases the council, I'd like to move to the presentation, and I'll ask Mr. Jones to come up and support me in the discussion. I'll go through one or two slides to begin with, and then I'll ask Mr. Jones to offer a few bona fides, some concepts on why the selection of materials, and some demonstration of his workmanship. Okay. So this is a street-facing view of a street position view of 110 Thomas Street. The thing I wanted to point out here is the 43-foot setback from the sidewalk. So the house is not right up on top of the pathway. And then, of course, this is sort of an angle view of the house. And clearly you can see you don't have clear visual to the soffits, to the rakes in the front and the soffits, the rakes on the side and the soffits in the front. Basically, it's the Sykes house, and yes, it's the one with the elevator, if nobody knows. It's built in 1935. It's our Dutch colonial, as we like to call it. Again, the 43-foot setback, 7 street-facing windows out of 26, so significant structure. Soffits are not visible from the sidewalk and street, and then the rakes are on the end of the structure. And the gutters that will be applied to the house, occlude the front-facing fascia. So again, only 7 street-facing windows, and the fascia, is occluded from the view by the gutters. We have chosen not to alter the integrity of the original architectural style. We had envisions of placing a portico on the front, but decided that probably wouldn't pass muster. And so what our intent here is, with the changes that we're making, is essentially a facelift, applying some beautifying things like a larger stoop, and then, of course, the changes in the back, which are not subject to the appeal, adding a nice sunroom on a back porch that was beginning to show its age, so to speak. So anyway, now I'll start to transition over to Mr. Jones. And again, we have begun the work, and I'll ask you just to give a few bona fides, a little bit about your history, and then also why we select the materials and some demonstrational workmanship.
I'm Robert Jones, president of R.A. Jones Incorporated. Brief history, I started the business in '82, got incorporated in 1986 in my Class A license. I have worked on homes as old as 1600, and through this slideshow, want to show you some presentations. Worked with the barns for 6 months in design and picking materials. I always take my customers' ideas and then make recommendations from them. Numerous manufacturers have been making materials to be architecturally correct with new products, We are using those. And this is the front of his house again. You can see the upper crown mold to the roof line. Really, none of the other trim other than the windows is there. We looked at PVC materials. There were 4 or 5 products on his house that could not be matched unless they were machined and doubled up. And I'll show you some pictures of why we won't do that, because it doesn't look good after a couple of years. Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, you got it. This house, original chimney to chimney, was 1 story and built in 1740. In the early 1800s, that structure caught on fire. It had a dirt floor, and it was raised to 1.5 stories, no dormers, but it had 2 lofts on the end and still had a dirt floor. 1940, the upstairs was done into 2 bedrooms and a bath, and the dormer windows were added. Next picture. This is 1940 rear addition, which included a den. A kitchen is the next window. The addition behind that was in 79. Go to the next one. That's showing the 79 addition. Go to the next one. This is an original 1740 window that we replaced and wrapped the trim to match what was there as close as possible. Go to the next one. This is a 1940s window that we replaced all the windows in 2014 and rewrapped all the trim. Well, you can go to the next one. That's both of them. That's a 1940 to a 1740 window wrap to mimic the trim. The pictures to me don't look as good as they do. Hopefully y'all see them better, but you see the bends in the architectural style to mimic the brick molds. Next picture. This is Mr. Barnes' gable vent and rear end. One thing we're doing in this project is removing all overhead utilities. All his utilities are going to be underground. There is crown mold that meets the roof with a 1x8 facial behind it. You see the paint peeling on it. And the main focus is that gable vent. Go to the next one. This is the previous house, a wood gable vent. The rake board did not have crown, but it had a oversized shingle mold, and that was wrapped to mimic that product. Go to the next one. This is a detail, and the crown mold is hidden in the fascia and against the roof. But if you look at the return, which is the bottom of the blue trim on that house, the detail in it, the details there hiding the crown against the frieze. So there's 3 different crowns in that picture that are wrapped using a tool that is like a gutter machine that molds the metal. It looks like crown mold, which you'll see in the next picture. Well, this is a more detailed close-up. You can see the crown on the fascia meeting the crown on the gable. That's a beaded soffit with a bed mold against the brick and frieze board, and the wrapped return that hides the end of that. This is what we're proposing to do to Joe and Faye's house. It's another picture of, again, crown molds being wrapped and returned and a beaded soffit, which is correct. He has existing beaded soffit on the rear of his house. This is another example of the front porch of that with a wrapped crown, beaded soffit, the moldings all wrapped and covered in aluminum. Another example of a wrapped crown, soffit, bed mold, and a frieze board. This is a before and after event. This is a Southern Livings home that came from plans that were historic out of Charleston, South Carolina. A customer built in Pocosin. He had everything was wood. The wood gable vent on the left to a aluminum wrapped gable vent on the right. This is his return. He had crowns on the fascia. You can see the details on the picture on the left. The wood was deteriorating. The picture on the right is wrapped crown, fascia, return, and rake boards. It has beaded soffit in it and the crown up under it, but you can't see that very good in that picture. this is the same house dormers. Sometime in the past, he had somebody redo his dormer on the left because it was leaking on the front. When he hired us, he wanted the profiles back that were in the original plans, which had the little teeny pieces of siding beside the corner boards. The picture on the right, the after, is vinyl siding. This isn't in a historic district, but it was off of historic plans with the wrapped crown molds that form the triangle at the top under the soffits, vinyl side and vinyl corners. Pretty good example of how you can wrap wood to look like wood. In looking at these reasons we didn't pick some materials, our window trims, we can mimic his oversized brick mold. We could not find that in PVC. Every material moves at different rates. So if you put a PVC brick mold against a wood window jamb, they're going to both move. The only thing that keeps the water out of that is caulk. If it does leak, it's going down the wall. It won't be seen until it's a flat surface and spreads out. We chose the metal because we use a hem, which is the end of the metal is bent shut, and it's protruding forward, which causes a compression seal against the existing window jamb, or actually in his case, it'd be the window frame. And it's allowed to move, but does not let water in. In doing all this, 6 months of going through design with them, we picked the best materials we thought would work to correctly show the architecture and provide him with a maintenance-free exterior. I'm open to any questions.
I have one last comment, and then I will be done. So, but it has different perspectives. I can probably not say anything today to convince a purist to change his mind. For the pragmatists in the group, maybe. Hopefully, Mr. Jones's explanations helps understand why we've chosen this path and ask for its consideration. I guess in the end, the question for me is, are the proposed changes so egregious that they would significantly detract from the historic character of the district? In the end, I think with the changes, my house is not going to be that different than other contributing houses in the community. Thank you.
Thank you for stepping up, giving us that presentation. At this time, do we have anyone else like to comment on this?
Mr. Mayor, the statute says, the appeal statute says that the town council shall consult with the review board in relation to any appeal. Mr. Hill is present, and he's the contractor representative on the Board of Historic and Architectural Review. You can hear from him if you want to.
I'd like to, yes, if he's got time. It looks like he's asleep back there.
My name is Russell Hill, 10269 Rainbow Road, Carrollton, Virginia. I'm on the BHR. We talked to the Barnes about this. I did the house right beside them, which John Arrington lives in. I've done 13 houses on Church Street, and basically all the houses are composite. There's 100 ways to do it. I'm not a fan of the vinyl. I mean, I know there's all kinds of, there's tools out there. When the wind blows 40 miles an hour, it's going to blow off. I don't care what you put on there. And that's something in the historic district we don't want to see. I do a lot of these houses. I flipped some houses on Washington Street myself. They're all PVC. I know it's more expensive. I understand that. But it's a better product. It'll last forever. It's basically maintenance free. And it's a good product. So any questions I can answer?
Just so you know, the historic board didn't see what you just saw.
No.
None of them. I mean, it was,
Right.
that explanation from Mr. Jones was not, they didn't go into that detail.
But Russell, you're saying that this product they're presenting is what you've used before in the historic book?
I'm not a fan of the vinyl wrap.
Okay, right.
The BHR very seldom ever approves that. Now, the next door neighbor to the left of him, that house is a vinyl house, and it has metal wrap on it. Well, the reason that house passed is because it was a like-for-like product. That house was already vinyl and had vinyl siding and vinyl wrap on it. So with their ordinance rules we have, we could not deny them because they changed the material was there with like-for-like products, so there was no vote on that. So that's, you know, they might be pulling some of that. But my big thing is asking me on the BHLR, you know, I don't care if your house is 40 feet off the road, if it's 10 feet off the road. We have a rule for a reason. Everybody should comply with the same rules, in my opinion. I don't care if you live on Gray Street, you live on Cedar Street, you live on Washington Street, they all should be the same. Nobody's house or nobody's better than the next person on the road.
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. I live in a historic district, and everything we have is wrapped in vinyl. I mean, not vinyl, but wrapped in metal. The rest of it's masonry, so, but was built in the early 80s.
Right.
If we had to repair, would you make me go back?
Well, that house was built, you're not in the,
Right.
you live in a historic district, but that's
Right.
not a historical home,
Right.
if you follow what I'm saying.
So you consider this to be a historical home, even though
Yes.
you do?
It's it's designated as contributing, it's not a landmark, it's a contributing structure. There's a difference between the two.
Any questions for Mr. Russell?
Maybe for Mr. Russell with Mr. Riddick chiming in. According to the guidelines, the use of this material is not prohibited. It is recommended that it's not used. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's on a case-by-case basis how we normally do it on, you know, certain houses. Like I just said, like the house beside him is a like-for-like product. So what they're doing, they're covering up a pine wood with a vinyl wrap metal, aluminum wrap metal. So that's not a like-for-like product. So if you use a composite material, like they make composite crown, they make composite facial board, it's all a solid PVC, which is a 3/4 board. You can mill it, you can do whatever with it. I make shutters out of it, we make bead board out of it, we do everything with it. But it's the same thing, it's a 3/4 inch thick. It's just like taking a board off and replacing a board, but that board is 100% vinyl.
Mr. Harrison, there's no such thing as a prohibited material. I mean, the guidelines don't say this is prohibited.
Right.
But there's guidelines.
That's my point.
As best practices, I think, is the best way to describe it. But Mr. Hill is correct, the board considers every application on a case-by-case basis. And so, I mean, they've approved vinyl and they've approved aluminum. But they're charged with, the board is charged with implementing the guidelines to their greatest extent possible based on their judgment. But this is an appeal, and you have the right to consider what the applicant says and the evidence that he's presented and the feedback from the historical group.
I have a question for Mr. Barnes and the contractor. Is there a reason you're not, I'm just wondering, cost,
Cost is a consideration, yes.
can you give us an example of the difference in, I mean, have you run the estimates? I mean, I'm just curious.
We have, I mean, I'd be glad to share it with you afterwards. I don't want to make my cost public necessarily
Okay,
in
sure.
my contract.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, if you want to
Okay.
have that discussion offline, I'd be glad. It's not insignificant. The other aspect was, you know, preserving the structural integrity of the existing window frames. We didn't want to break those seals. We didn't want to destroy the soffits. The covering aspects lets us preserve that without going through a lot of construction or destruction effort. So, hey, we are preserving what was originally on the house. And we're trying to make it as low maintenance, I guess, for our later years in life. Who knows, somebody may come along 9 years later and discover expose the undiscovered gem, so to speak. So that's part of our approach to this. We really cost not destroying the structural integrity of the soffits and the window frames or trim primarily. And from my perspective, yes, again, the purest, minimal change, I get it. But we also like our house to look as nice as it can be too. It's our home, so we pay for it, or paying for it, so to speak.
Can I make a
Thank you.
couple of comments?
Yes, please.
The older house, 1740, that grew through 1979, that house was within 75 yards of the tornado that started in the south end of Isle of Wight and went all the way to Gloucester. 75 yards, blew trees down, everything. One piece of trim, a rake board, came off the house, and it's about this long. When I went back to that house to take pictures, we've been a new one, and we're gonna go put it back up there for them. So that house for 11 years, nothing has been done to it, and it still looks like it did. Joe and I walked down his street. Every house on that street that has an aluminum covered crown mold is a straight vent. It has no profile of crown to it at all. What we're proposing to do is crown mold. It looks very similar. You would have to get very close to it to see that it is not wood. And it's guaranteed for life by the manufacturer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else like to come speak on this matter
Yes.
from the public?
I'd like to offer a few observations. A lot of folks in the room know this. My wife and I have restored 2 homes on Gray Street. The expense in doing that is significant. I'm one of the purest pragmatists, I guess, having been involved in historic preservation 50 plus years. I started when I was 1. It's important for those of us who are determined to protect our historic district to be cognizant of the difficulty in doing that, shouldering that, taking care of these homes is incredibly expensive. If you're a preservationist, if you're a historical home lover and you take that on, you know that going in. But if there is a way to do the job, maintain the architecture, protect the building, and help the homeowner in terms of costs, I think that's something that we need to take a hard look at. After the original paperwork came to us, went around and looked at a lot of the homes in the historic district. Both of the ones that I restored actually have a combination of metal wrapping and vinyl wrap. I would guess if we walked down the street together, most everybody who walked by would not be able to tell the difference or recognize which is which. John May's house was the first house that we did, 308. That entire exterior was done, the poles, the columns, and some of those are done with wrap and soft up there. So I'm just saying, a whole different perspective. Mike's point was a good point. Joe's house is an important house. We don't have another Dutch colonial in that whole stretch. It's definitely important for us to maintain it as one of those things that adds to our historic district. So I'm just sharing with the council that we don't want to discourage people from buying, maintaining historic properties, but we definitely want to ensure that they look right and feel right. So I guess that's, I just want to share that because it's important for us to protect, but we have to encourage the protection also.
Any other comments? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion do we need a motion for an appeal?
Yeah, somebody's gonna make a motion
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Right.
And the only issues that you're deciding on are
The
ones
trims,
The ones
yeah.
that he appealed.
That's right.
Everything else has been approved by the historic board, and he didn't appeal that.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that help me, Bill. I want to endorse or accept the appeal.
Well,
So.
you would approve his application for the use of the materials as specified in his appeal. In particular, the wrapping the existing wooden rakes, fascia trim, and white mastic PVC coated aluminum, and to cover the existing wood soffits with new white mastic beaded vinyl soffits. That's what he asked to do. That was denied, and you can, if your motion is to approve that, then that would be your motion.
To approve his appeal.
Yes, to approve the materials that he asked
Right.
for in his application.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Town Council approves the request to use the different materials as listed by the applicant.
Correct.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, just one quick comment.
Yes.
Having gone down the road with advisory boards and things like that in my previous life, I think it's important that the advisory boards know that we do certainly appreciate where they're coming from. We certainly also understand it's just a different way of looking at things, and the fact that we may or may not approve what they have ultimately done, whether it's this project or whether it's other projects, has absolutely no reflection on the wonderful job that they do and the hard work that they put in.
I know they appreciate that.
Yeah, I want to kind of add to that. And far be it from me, I know we have a lot of really qualified and dedicated people on Bihar, and I appreciate all their time and effort that they put into this. That being said, I also appreciate all the homeowners in the historic district that have to work hard to maintain their homes as well. It's a balance, and I don't think it doesn't diminish either side. You know, both work very hard to get. I think they all have the same goal. It's just a matter of how do we get there. And it really is preserving the homes. I mean, we have different homes all throughout the historic district, and that's what people love about Smithfield. So I think we need to. I mean, we could say, well, we're not going to do this or we're not going to do that, and then pretty soon we have a structure that is beyond repair, and we don't want that to happen either. So, but I do appreciate the work on the people that are on Bihar. I know they have a lot of details that they sort through, so I appreciate their time. Thank you.
Any other further comments? If not, I'll call for the question.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biebermeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming up. At this time, we have a motion to accept the nominating committee's recommendation to fill the existing term of Faye Seeley and the unexpired term of Greg Brown. Mr. Cullen, do you have a...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Mary Ellen Biebermeyer for the collaboration on working together to find new appointees for the Board of Zoning Appeals. And we kind of split up the duties, so I'll take one first. Mr. Mayor, I'm nominating Mr. Eric Yaljamus. He's a resident here in Smithfield, of Jericho Estates, Norfolk Naval Shipyard, and he's going to do a great job on our Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay, can you spell that?
He can.
J-A-U-D-Z-I-M-A-S.
That's it.
Just so you know, this is a recommendation to the circuit court.
Right.
So and that, there has to be an order in it and all that sort of thing. So I have to do this in two pieces, one for the unexpired term of Ms. Seeley, and then yours is the applicant to fill the full
Full
term
term.
vacated by Ms. Seeley? Okay, that's a 5-year term, okay.
And I would like to nominate Mr. Kurt Brueggemann, also for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
And that's for the unexpired term
Yes.
of Greg Bryant?
2 years, I believe.
Yes, okay.
Can we cover them both in one motion, or are they separate motions?
If you do two, it'll help me with the circuit court. 'Cause
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we nominate Eric Yaljamus to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mr. Reddick, do we have
Do it all the
to
same.
do this collectively, individually to vote on this, or?
I would like you to.
Okay.
It'll help me with the. my
Okay,
paperwork.
sure, okay.
You
All right, so
want
we have
Darren
a
to
motion.
add Kurt's name to his motion as well?
No.
Oh.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any
Second.
further discussion? If not, call for the question.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Now we need to move to the unexpired term.
I make a motion to nominate Kurt Brueggemann for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay, we have a
To the
motion, do we have a
circuit court.
second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Thank you guys for your time and efforts on that, and I appreciate spending the time with it. Sometimes it can be difficult just to find someone. Next, we have the approval.
Mr. Mayor, and thanks
Yes.
to you fellows for stepping forward and accepting the challenge. We appreciate that very much.
We have approval of summary minutes.
Yes, sir, I recommend approval of the February 25th, 2025 minutes as presented.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the summary minutes.
And a
from-
second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? If not, call for the question.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilman Bowman,
Abstain, I was not there.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Oh.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I recommend approval of the summary minutes for the April 1st, 2025 meeting as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, call for the question.
Councilman Bowman,
Yes.
Councilman Brooks,
Yes.
Councilman Cutler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. At this time, we have any new business to come before council? If not, the old business. We have a blight update, 1502 Magruder Road.
The attorney for the property owner is present, Mr. Mayor.
Please come forward.
Thank you, and good evening. I apologize for my informal attire, but I think as I mentioned at the working session, I have been in Washington until this morning and drove back this evening to try to get here in time. So I apologize for my informal attire, but thank you for your time. The update that I had at the working session was that we have now scheduled the sworn statements for the insurance company for May 16th. They were moved by the insurance company attorney to that date. In the meantime, we've provided them all of the updated information that they have requested, and they have not yet requested anything additional. Should they request anything additional, we'll provide it before the meeting. The second thing that I mentioned was that I'd been informed by the attorney for the insurance company that when he filed the FOIA request with the Virginia State Police to get a copy of their investigation, he was informed that the investigation was still ongoing as far as they were concerned, and therefore they did not have to comply with his FOIA request. That was different than information I had been given before your last meeting, which was that the investigation had in fact concluded. Our clients have been told the investigation was concluded. It wasn't clear to me, and still is not clear to me, why they are saying the investigation is ongoing. But Mr. Riddick was kind enough to share an email that Councilman Bowman initiated to the state police, which confirms that their investigation is not concluded at this time. Now, the email did say that they don't have any interest in the property itself being retained pending the conclusion of their investigation. Unfortunately, that does not protect the owners of the property, because until the police investigation is concluded, there's no way to know whether some evidence at that property would either support or, would refute something that the police may try to say has happened. So we're in a real predicament here, because we have an insurance company that is not yet approved a claim, and we have a state police investigation which is now officially still open, and we understand that the property is unsightly. Trust me, my clients would like nothing more for this not to be before you, but it is. And we understand why it is. But I also understand from talking with Mr. Riddick earlier today that what we understood at the town, at the prep meeting last week is not correct. And that is, there was a suggestion that if you voted to blight the property tonight, that we would have 90 days to take action. That's not correct. The 90-day period started when the letter came out. And according to what I understand from Mr. Riddick, if you vote to blight the property tonight, then you could assert your lien at any time. But if you assert your lien, and if you start to tear down and remove the rest of this property, without the police investigation being officially concluded, I would respectfully suggest that you're putting our clients' rights at risk. And they are, in fact, taxpayers in this community. And they were renovating this house to sell it. When it burned down, it was not their fault. There's no evidence that I'm aware of it is their fault. But I used to be a prosecutor in one of my old lives, and I know what it means when they say an investigation is still ongoing. That means it's still ongoing. And until they come back and say that they're done, and they're not going to bring any charges against our clients, with all due respect, I think that you all should not blight this property. They have taken the steps to put up a fence. They have taken the steps to mark it for no trespassing. And we will continue to cooperate with the insurance company. I don't know why the investigation is still open, and I will try to seek an answer to that question between now and the meeting that you will have in June. But with all due respect, if Mr. Riddick is correct, that if you vote to blight the property, then there's a lien on the property and you all can take over and get rid of it, that's not fair to my clients, because that's not fair to their ability to refute something that the police may later say. So what I'd like the council to do, and I understand there is frustration and some anger about the situation. Trust me, the Harrises are as frustrated about this situation as any of you are. I know that the neighbors think it's unsightly. The Harrises don't agree. But with the official statement in the email to Councilman Bowman that this police investigation is still ongoing, and with my having advised you that the insurance company still has an open claim, I think that it is not fair to the Harrises for the city to blight this property at this time. And what I would ask you to do is to continue this again to the June meeting to see if we can resolve the matter with the insurance company, and once that's resolved with the insurance company, then we can approach the state police and see if they're willing to close the investigation. Again, I don't know why the investigation is still open. I'm not sure they have an obligation to tell me why it's still open. But if it's still open, the Harrises have a right to protect themselves, and that includes making sure that evidence that could be at this property does not disappear. So I thank you all very much, and I know, and I think I can speak for the Harrises and say they would like this not to be an issue for the town. The other thing that I can tell you is that they applied for a demolition permit, if I'm using the right term, and I understand that that was sent to them today. So they are taking active steps. They've also contacted a contractor to confirm bids to do the work. So it's not like they're sitting back and doing nothing, but it's the timing of when this work can be done that is significant. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, but with all due respect, if any of, if any of you were facing the fact that a police investigation is still open, would you want any potential evidence to disappear? I think the answer is no, you would not. And so I know that's a balancing act, but I would ask you to defer and allow us to report to you again at the June meeting. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Councilor Small for further discussion?
I would. I'd like
Yes,
to ask,
go-
I'd like to ask
please.
Mr. Riddick for clarification. Mr. Small indicated that if we blight it today, can you explain to me
Well,
please do?
Let me recap how this whole thing
Please.
works. The zoning administrator sent a notice of a preliminary finding that it was a blighted property, and they had 30 days in which to respond with a plan.
Correct.
Mr. Small sent a letter, and essentially his letter stated that they were going to rely on the claim to be paid, and at such time as the claim was paid, they would remove the structure. Right? That's essentially it, I believe.
I think that's a fair summary.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, and this has been going on for several months now, and he's been very candid about his client's position on this thing. But we're at a juncture right now that under the code, you may find that if the owner fails to respond with an abatement plan within 30 days, well, he responded with a plan, but responds with a plan that is not acceptable to the town council, or fails to complete the work approved in the plan. Well, there was never work approved in the plan. And parenthetically, the 90 days is the time period in which they have to complete the work in an approved plan. So that's where the 90 days comes from. But we're at a juncture now where you could make a finding that you have not accepted or you have not approved you have not accepted his proposed plan of abatement. And if you do that, then it says the council shall declare the property as blighted and develop an abatement plan. Well, if you make a finding that the property is blighted tonight because they have not presented an approved, an acceptable plan, then you would direct the town manager to develop an abatement plan. Well, that's going to take, he's going to have to come up with something, and we'll come back to you in 30 days with his abatement plan. So that's going to get us pretty much where Mr. Small wants us to be, and if he has additional information at that point, then this probably becomes moot. I would say that, and you well know, the council doesn't want to incur this expense because we don't get a lien, Mr. Small, until we incur the expense, and then the expense of abating the problem becomes a lien upon the property. So it's not just a lien right out of the box. It's only a lien for the cost in the event the town council has to take the work, has to incur the expense of doing the work to abate the property. You know, I would say that, council may or may not take action tonight, but I would recommend, as we talked on the phone, that, the best thing your client could do is come up with an abatement plan that gives us who, when, how, and how much. And that might be something that would very, very well be music to the ears of town council if you would come up with a concrete plan to get rid of this problem.
Let me propose this. once we are notified by the state police that they have concluded their investigation, then either my clients personally or their insurance company will clean the property up and abate the blight. But I don't think that anybody can ignore the fact that the state police say the investigation is ongoing, and the fact that they don't have a reason to get any more evidence out of the property doesn't mean that my clients wouldn't have reason to get evidence on the property, depending upon what they say. I can also tell council that I will contact the state police again, and following up on the information they gave Mr. Bowman, and find out if we can get a timeline from them. But I think our abatement plan made sense, and that was people buy homeowners insurance for a reason. And part of the reason is when you have a fire, they come in and clean it up, and then they help you rebuild the house. In this case, the insurance company has gone through this long, extended process, longer than I've ever seen, to investigate this claim. And so what I would ask the council to do is to understand that our abatement plan is now tied to the fact that the state police have to tell us that they've concluded their investigation. Because even though they say they don't want evidence from the property, it doesn't mean that my clients wouldn't need evidence from the property if something comes back from the state police. So what I would respectfully suggest is that our plan is not unreasonable. I don't disagree with Councilman Bowman that this has taken a lot longer than it should have taken, but I do disagree that that is the fault of my clients. And the reason I disagree with that is because, number one, the insurance company still has an open claim, and based on the email of April 22nd, the state police confirmed that they still have an open investigation. I don't know what that means. But what I do know that it means, being a former prosecutor and a former defense attorney, is that any evidence that relates to that fire could be important to my clients in addressing anything the state police could bring up. So it's unfortunate, and I wish I wasn't here asking for this, but I respectfully request that you continue it to June, because I think hopefully by then these things will be resolved. But I think if you declare it a blighted property now, and if the town manager has to develop a plan, then we're going to get into other expense. And I don't think that that's in anybody's interest. And I would also submit that, and I agree, sir, it's unsightly to look at. I don't disagree with that at all. And I agree it's frustrating. I'm frustrated. But it doesn't change the fact that that evidence that exists at that site may be important to my clients. And until the insurance company is done and the state police are done, it is potential evidence related to the cause of that fire or the circumstances of that fire. And I don't think you should declare it a blight for that reason. I think a blight is intended where there would be no consequence if you in fact exercised your rights to clean it up yourselves. In other words, it's just a piece of blighted property and there's nothing tied to that property, which is a right of our client. That's not what we have here. Two things are directly tied to that property: the insurance and now the open investigation with the police. So I would ask the council not to declare it a blighted property this evening and to defer this matter to June so that we don't have town staff working on a plan that will be unnecessary. Because we have contacted a contractor about the cleanup. We have applied for the permit, and I understand that's good for a year. Not that I'm saying it's going to take that long, but we've applied for the permit. So we've done everything we can do without messing with the evidence. And we put up a fence to protect not only the evidence, but also to keep people out so that it's not an actual danger to anybody. It's unsightly, but it's not a danger any longer with the fence that's been installed. So it may be a big ask. I hope it's not, but I would respectfully request that you, again, defer the matter to the June town council meeting. because I think we have presented a plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
a couple of points to Mr. Small's points. The fact that it has gone this period of time and the fact that they have had significant problems with the insurance company, I think begs the question, what have you done or what has your client done to seek professional expertise to determine cause of the fire or what may have happened? The other thing that causes me concern, when you talk about an open investigation, we've got homicides that are open 5, 6, 7 years from now. And all of a sudden you're waiting for a tip to come in. Well, does that mean that we wait 5 or 6 years for the state police, which is not of our making, to declare this specific case closed and leave this structure as a memorial to the fire that occurred until such date that the state police come in and say, well, you know, we're closing this case in 6 years from now. The other issue about a blight that Mr. Small brought up, the blight is just not a blight as far as his client's concerned. Blight goes both ways. It's a 50-50 proposition, if not more. It's a proposition for those that are surrounded by it that have to contend with it. And I suggest to you and submit to you that you don't go ad infinitum waiting for some type of thing to occur that we as a town have no control over, when it's our responsibility, yes, to look out for the taxpayers, but also to look out for the property owners that surround this area that have to contend with this. And once again, we're being asked for another month. I don't know whether Mr. Small has come up with a rationale as to why another month is going to make any difference, but it's been a long period of time. And there's no anger involved. I can assure you that. I've been in law enforcement and been police work, been a former state trooper, and worked arsons and things like that before. No anger. I'm just looking at it from a realistic point of view that there comes a time when the time is up and we as the town council don't continue to the detriment of those that are surrounding our other folks, that we continue to wait and wait and wait until something magically is going to occur. And I haven't heard anything that gives me any comfort as a town council member that is going to happen. And on top of that, if you have already sought to have a demolition permit issued, what is the harm in us declaring this a blighted property other than your concern about there may be some evidence there that the state police comes back and says, oh, well, there may be X, so we need Y. That's what's disconcerting to me. And I have not changed my position whatsoever as far as the blight and that being a blight. And I hope you haven't either, based on your observations of what I think everyone has seen there. And for that reason, I make a motion to find that the owners of the property located at 1502 Magruder Road have failed to respond to the town's notice that the property is in a blighted condition with a plan of abatements acceptable to the town, and to declare the property to be a blighted property pursuant to section 22-2 of the town code, and further that the town manager is directed to develop an abatement plan. And that's my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? I do have one question to Mr. Riddick. In this email response regarding the structure, this is the state police, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bowman. Regarding the structure, we have no investigative interest in the structure itself at this time and have no objection to it being demolished. So that tells me they've done their work with the building, so that anything else after that, I don't know what goes on with that. But I feel like that statement right there tells me that they're not looking for anything else in the structure itself. Would that be correct?
Well, the statement speaks for itself, but that's the position of the state police. Mr. Small has stated that, he's very clearly stated his position that if in fact something came as a result of the investigation, there may be evidence on site that would inure to the benefit of his client. And that's why he's asking you not to do this. But as I said before, if this motion passes, it's gonna be 30 days before Mr. Stallings is back here with a plan. So, and nothing precludes the owners from having access to their property in the next 30 days. So if they deem it necessary to make further investigation of their property, certainly they have that opportunity. And maybe, hopefully, Mr. Small will be back here in 30 days and we'll know something more, and I'm sure he hopes that as well. But you can take such action as you deem appropriate.
If I could just address one last point, and that is the comment that was made about nothing has prevented us from having someone come and look at the site, an expert come and look at the site. The difficulty there is we don't know what the expert is to be looking at. Until the state police would tell us that there's something wrong that our clients might have done, we don't know what to have somebody look at. What we do know is that if there is alleged evidence of some kind of wrongdoing by our clients related to the fire, what is at the site is evidence that we could have an independent investigator look at. But to simply say, why haven't we done it, is because, number one, we don't think it's necessary, but number two, our clients have a right to be protected if, in the event the state police come back and say something. And I agree with you that they don't have an interest in the property remaining as it is. But as citizens, as taxpayers in Smithfield, our clients do have a huge interest in it. And so I'd ask you to defer for a month. And do I know exactly what's going to happen at the end of that month? No, and I'm not going to stand here and tell you I do. But I do know that the sworn statements will be done by then, and hopefully we'll have an answer from the insurance company. And what I would hope is if we have a claim answer from the insurance company, and then we approach the state police, that we can get some resolution and the claim will be closed. Thank you. Appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Question, sir.
Yes, no further discussion. If not, call the question.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Mr. Bowman, would you restate your motion for me, please?
Yes, sir. Motion to find that the owners of the property located at 1502 Magruder Road have failed to...
That's far enough. Yes.
Councilman Brooks.
Yes.
Councilman Bowman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Butler.
No.
Councilwoman Beavermeyer.
Yes.
Councilman Cutler.
No.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
At this time, we'll move to continued budget discussion for fiscal year 25-26.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council, just another opportunity, if there's questions on the draft budget proposal, for Council to be able to ask those. Again, we do have a public hearing scheduled for the 19th at 6:30. The one question that was brought up about the debt service plan, I reached out to our consultants who did our rate study for us, and their quick look at it said it would need to be $10.50 to do away with the debt service fee. So currently we're at $7. The recommendation is to go to $8.50. They said that we need to go to $10.50 to be able to do away with the debt service fee. We are going to have a call sometime probably this week to dive deeper into that to see what it looks like moving forward as far as if cost of services go up. Presumably there would be additional rate increases that would come from that, but their initial look said $10.50 is where it would have to be this year to do away with the debt service fee.
Does everybody understand what he's coming from on that? Because it seems sort of funny. I know some people might not understand it, that you raise the rate to get rid of a debt. So I can see where the public might be confused about it. But I appreciate you reaching out and trying to get
Yes,
that
sir.
study done. If any other further thing comes up, we'd appreciate that.
We will.
Are any other questions for Michael? If not, meeting adjourned.